Hello and welcome to the latest edition of the Chopping Block Podcast. My name is Paddy Stapleton, and every week I'll be sitting down with a different guest for a chat about food. Some of my guests make their living in the food or drinks trade, while some just love food. I'll be talking to a variety of people and exploring a little bit of their lives. Some of my guests you may have heard of before, some you definitely won't know, but what unites all these people is the stories they have to tell about the role food and drink play in their lives. So sit back, put your feet up, pour yourself a good glass of whatever your favourite tipple is, and enjoy this episode of the Chopping Block. My guest today is a man with many strings to his bow. He's an ex-county footballer with Cavan, and he's a two-time Meath senior football champion with Simon St. Gales. He's the anchor of two podcasts I listen to every week, GAA Pod We Are Meath, and Wine Pod I Heard It Through the Grapevine. He's an ex-restaurateur, an ex-publican, a father of three, and he now works in the world of wine as a rep with Tindal Wines. He's also the only man I know who was nearly killed by a single delicious crab cake. Micky Brennan, welcome to the pod, and thank you for sitting down with me.
No, thank you, Paddy, and what a wonderful introduction as well. Yeah, you put a lot of thought into that one.
I tried. We'll come back to the crab cake later. That's something I think everybody needs to know about. Let's start with 20 either-or questions. So these are just to help us learn a little bit about you.
Perfect.
You can do whatever you want with them. You can go into detail. You can sail through them. It's entirely up to you. Hopefully by the end they'll give us a little flavour of what your tastes are. So number one, cocktail or pint?
Oh, pint, Paddy.
Pint. Strawberries or raspberries?
Definitely strawberries.
Knife and fork or fingers?
Knife and fork, Paddy.
Breakfast or lunch?
Lunch. Yeah, I do like a good lunch.
Butter in the fridge or butter in the cupboard?
Butter has to be in the cupboard.
Prosecco or cava?
I suppose Prosecco because it's easier drink.
Beans or no beans?
No beans.
Chips or mash?
Mash. I love a good mash.
Chateau Margaux or Chateau Montelena?
Chateau Montelena.
Custard creams or bourbon creams?
Yeah, see, custard creams or bourbon creams is a tough one because I think they're two great biscuits, but I'm going to have to say that it's a bourbon cream.
I'm with you on that one. Toasted or untoasted?
Toasted. Dinner
with friends or dinner with family?
Yeah, see, this is a tough one. Well, I love my friends and I do love going for a meal with them. I think family in the last number of years has become number one, and yeah, it'll have to be food with family, dinner with family.
Press box sandwiches in Breffni Park in Cavan or press box sandwiches in Park Talton in Meath?
Well, I'm going to have to pull you up straight away, Paddy, because the official name is Kingspan Breffni. You're not allowed to say Breffni Park anymore, so you're not. And that's a directive coming straight from
the consummate pro.
You know, when you're in the media box, there's little tags on the boards where you sit down and it says, remember, it's Kingspan Breffni, not Breffni Park. Yeah, it is. Yeah,
I suppose they're putting the money in.
They're putting the money in.
Stop your waffling and give me an answer.
It would have to be the Kingspan Breffni sandwiches at halftime because the spread they put on is incredible. Now there is a reason for that. Maybe I suppose in Park Talton it's much harder. It's an old stadium, so the media box is right up at the back of the stand, and you have to walk down through the crowd and then go down through the gates and then go back in another door to get your cup of tea and whatever. So you don't usually go down that often. And
it's not worth the sandwich to go down and risk missing the second half.
Exactly. Whereas in Kingspan Breffni, the media press area at the back of the stand has a separate entrance. So there's a stairs that comes out from behind it and goes down into a lovely little room where you get this spread of chicken goujons and you get cocktail sausages and you get just lovely little things, little hot bits of food and whatever, and then you've got an array of sandwiches and you've got tea and coffee and pasta.
So what you're telling me is Cavan are one up on Meath here?
They're one up on Meath here, yeah.
But
yeah.
maybe when we
the sandwich steaks.
When we redevelop the Park Talton, maybe the campaign starts here for better press facilities. Maybe if we get it, you can bring me up.
Absolutely.
Victoria Sponge or Black Forest Gatto?
Black Forest Gatto.
Medium rare or medium well?
Well, I want to say medium,
but
you're not going to allow me.
No.
I can't go to medium rare. We'll come back to that later on. But I'm going to have to say medium well then, which is going to be a knife through the heart of a lot of people out there.
You enjoy it whatever way you want. This is your podcast, Micky. No one's going to judge you much. Pinot Grigio or Pinot Noir?
Yeah, again, see, you're hitting me with... I'm not a big fan of Pinot Noir. I just find it very light, and for want of a more technical term, but a lot of people do say to me, it's a little bit watery.
Watery.
So I'm not a big... So Pinot Grigio, is Pinot Grigio. But I'm going to say Pinot Grigio.
That's okay.
That's going to be a dagger through a lot of people's heart again. So
You're killing people here.
Yeah, I'm killing people.
5-second rule or straight into the bin?
Oh, it's a 20-minute rule with me, or at least. So yeah, so the 5-second rule, definitely. Don't waste food like that, Paddy.
Halftime tea or halftime coffee?
Halftime coffee.
Brandy or port?
Oh, brandy. I love a good brandy.
And last question, is a Jaffa cake a cake or is it a biscuit?
Yeah. Well, Paddy, we both know the answer to this, and you know it properly now, so you do, that a Jaffa cake is a cake.
Okay,
and the hint is in the name as well, Paddy.
The reason I ask about this, we have a bit of a history with this. Me and Mickey used to work in, I think it was Quinsworth before it became Tesco.
Yeah.
And we used to enjoy the old Jaffa cake and a pint of milk, but we started having a silly argument about whether it was a cake or a biscuit, and of course me, knowing everything, said it was a biscuit and Mickey said it was a cake. And that was that. We had the chat and we agreed to disagree, until a couple of weeks or months later, I started getting messages on my phone saying I was an idiot and I was a fool and God, the clue is in the name, and I didn't know what was going on. So turns out that Mickey emailed or wrote?
No, I text
into Fix It Friday, which was a Ray Darcy show where you could get the answer to things that you couldn't find anywhere else. And he said, my friend Paddy Stapleton, remembering you shouldn't give a full name on these things, you certainly shouldn't tell them where they're from. My friend Paddy Stapleton from Navan thinks that Jaffa cakes are biscuits, while I think they're cakes. Which of us is right? So it turns out that years and years ago there was a massive court case where Jaffa cake makers went to court to prove that Jaffa cakes were cakes, because the tax on cakes is a lot less than it is on biscuits. So legally, Jaffa cakes are officially cakes because of the moisture content. And Mickey has been lording it over me ever since. Some would say rightly so, but I've been asking this question on the pod since we started, and it's leaning very much in favour of biscuits. So my guests are obviously more intelligent than the law.
Well, the law, Paddy, is, and you kind of hit on it there. I don't think you want to give the full story about the Jaffa cake, but they actually, I think it was McVitie's who went in with the Jaffa cake, and they baked a massive Jaffa cake, and they brought it in. And the difference as well, because of the moisture content, is that a biscuit goes soft and yet a cake goes hard. So they had so much research done.
Yeah, basically I was wrong and Mickey was right, and as you can see, he's still lording it over me. So let's talk about food, Mickey. Let's talk about yourself as a food. You come from a family of two sisters and a brother?
Yeah, 2 sisters and a brother. I'm the youngest of 4. I was probably the little surprise at the end of the run. And my older sister Mary, she's about 16 years older than me. And then I have a brother. Mary would probably be a little bit older, because I think Tommy is 15 years older, so Mary would probably be 18 years older than me.
She'll love you for telling her that?
Yeah, exactly, but we won't disclose my age, because then nobody will be able to figure out what age Mary is. So I'm 21, so Mary's only 39. And then my sister Joanne, who is 3 years older than me. But funny enough, Paddy, we've all ended up in the service industry. Mary has been a chef all of her life and a restaurateur. Tommy has been working in Bord Gosh Theatre as a manager in there. He's been working in bars and restaurants all his life. And then my sister Joanne is the same. She worked in the Ardboyne and now is the bar manager in Navan O'Matney's football club. So there's the GAA connection there as well.
Food and GAA run strong in your family.
Absolutely, yeah.
And when you were growing up, was Mary the chef in the house? Was your mum the chef?
No, Mum was the chef. But Mary would have been going to culinary school from the age of 16. She would have started in the Ardboyne when she was 15. So, but Mum was the chef in the house, and I wasn't the best of eaters back then. Let's just say. What
would you not eat? Were you stubborn? Well, I know you were stubborn. Were you awkward? Were you picky?
Yeah, I was awkward. But I like vegetables and all that. Everything had to be mashed. Everything had to be blended. I didn't like texture. I didn't like the texture of hard vegetables.
Really?
But if you gave me a vegetable soup and it had been blended, I loved it. But if you gave me a vegetable soup with lumpy veg in it, literally I'd be gagging. I'd be no.
And what about meat?
Meat, yeah, no.
You hardly blended your meat.
No, didn't blend the meat. No, I love meat. On the rare occasion we'd have steak, but it was chicken, fish fingers. Yeah, fish fingers were good.
Every child loves fish fingers.
And then like sausages, bacon. I love meat, which is funny because I'm an animal lover as well.
Yeah.
But I do love my meat, so
Doesn't make a lot of sense.
It's a bit of a contradiction in terms.
And you went to boarding school for secondary school, is that right?
Yeah, I did, Paddy. Yeah, that's. I went to boarding school.
And what was the food like there?
It was pretty bad.
Were you aware of that at the time? Like, did you know you were eating bad food?
Well, not that I knew it was bad food. It was food that I didn't like. So, not that it was bad.
It was lumpy veg.
It was lumpy veg and stuff. I didn't like that. No, but so much so that I feigned a few ailments. So that, because I realised within a couple of months of being in the boarding school that there was a group of guys on one table who got their food brought out to them, singly. They got their food came out in a plate with a lid on it, and everybody else was getting these trays of food brought down to the table and being slopped out onto plates and whatever. And I was like, well, what are they doing? So I figured out that they all had ailments, and
so you developed
I fabricated one or two and got doctor's notes, and then all of a sudden I was getting lovely food. And that lasted 5 years, and it was just, I'd be getting big lumps of bacon, some lovely mash, and...
And what was the rest of the meeting?
Oh, the rest of the guys were getting fish fingers and chips and stuff like that.
I picture, that scene in the old movie Oliver with the poles of crew.
Yeah, but that was pretty much that's what it looked like in my head. It really was like.
You were clever in that. You got.
I was a little bit. I was the Artful Dodger, let's just say.
And you started working in a restaurant when what? 18, 19?
Yeah, about 18, 19. I was in college. You were in college at the time. I was in college studying civil engineering and took a year out and got speaking to your sister who was managing a restaurant in Navan, the Loft restaurant, back in the day.
The long lamented Loft.
Yes, and everybody still speaks of it,
yeah.
Speaks highly of it. Well, your sister gave me a part-time job, and within a couple of weeks I was a full-timer, and then I was taking a year out from college, and I just absolutely loved it. But that was where I suppose I wasn't a closed book on food at that stage, but I wasn't very adventurous. But I went into the Loft restaurant and I started hearing about things like basil. You know what I mean? Like goat's cheese.
All the exotics.
All these exotic things, you know what I mean?
Brie.
Brie. I mean, it just opened up. Caesar salad. Not just salad. Caesar salad.
Mind
blowing stuff, and it opened up avenues for me to start tasting food and whatever, and I got an appreciation for it then.
And it's funny, indirectly you're responsible for my love of food. And I don't know if I've ever told you this, but when we were working in Quinsworth or Tesco, whichever it was, and you left and you went working in the Loft, and all of a sudden you were getting tips, and it was, Paddy, look at my pay packet, and I was like, okay, Jean, my sister, give me a job. So yeah, I started doing the same, and I fell in love with food. And tell me, you ran the restaurants for a few years then after that, and at the time you were playing a good bit of football?
Yeah, that's right, yeah. I was playing, I had a new restaurant opened up in Cavan under the same umbrella as the Loft on the ground floor, and it was the side door restaurant in Cavan, so I went down to work in that, as you did for a little while too, but I stayed down there, and I joined the local football club, which was only 100 metres from the restaurant. And
this was Drummondley?
This was Drummondley Football Club, Drummondley GFC.
And that led you playing inter-county?
That led to me playing inter-county, yeah. I met Hank Trainer one night and he said, don't give up playing football, will you come back to Simonstown? And I was like, I don't drive, Hank. And he goes, well look, you got to play football down here. There's talent in there if you just can hone in on it and whatever. So I decided to give it a shot because of Hank, because he was one of my idols growing up.
The great Hank Trainer.
Great Hank Trainer, yeah, absolutely. And I started playing with Drummondley and ended up playing for Cavan then.
And how long did you play for Cavan for?
About 8 or 9 years on now.
Wow.
Yeah, and there was a little stint with Meath in there as well.
A couple of trials?
No, played. Got onto the Meath squad in I think it was 08, and or maybe it was 09. It could have been. But played in the O'Byrne Cup, and I got a bad injury anyway to my thumb, and Colin Coyle was over the team at the time with Tommy Dowd and whatever, and it was disappointing to get the injury because they did think that I could have played with me that year, but I went back to the club and got myself sorted and had a great year with the club that year, although we didn't progress.
Then Cavan came calling. Now I'm interested in talking to you, because I know nothing about the life of an inter-county footballer. I've followed football, I go to as many Meath games as I can. But from a food point of view, so you're you're training hard.
Yeah.
Are you eating whatever you want, or is there a... I mean, if you're training so hard, do you get to eat as much as you want because you know you're going to burn it off, or are you given diet regime?
No,
say strictly intercounty.
I suppose at that stage, this is when they started bringing in dietitians. It was around that era.
Kind of the start of the professionalism.
It was the start of the professionalism. Maybe a few teams, county teams, were doing it already. The likes of your Tyrones, Armagh, Dublin, maybe Kerry, Mayo, but the rest of the country were starting to, trying to copy what everybody else was doing.
So when you went into the panel, were you given a regime? Were you given a menu, not a menu, a diet?
We had a dietitian. So the woman who the dietitian that was in with us, who was giving us all our dietary plans, was also running Weight Watchers around the whole of Cavan, and she was brilliant. But the funny thing is that there was about 5 of us that had to go to what we termed it at the time was fat camp. And I don't mean to be derogatory anyway to anybody out there, but that's what we called it, and that's what the rest of the team called it as well. So everybody had a dietary plan, and we were given what we had to eat and whatever. But we had to go in once a week on a Thursday after training to get weighed and to talk about what we had done.
Was this in front of all the team?
No, it was just the 5 of us.
Okay.
And one of the guys wasn't too happy about it at all, and just kind of got angry each time. But we'd go in and we'd stay, and it was like being at an AA meeting. It was like, hello, my name's Micky Brennan, and I've lost 1.5 pounds this week. But it really was. It was, but they were trying to get us to be as lean as possible. Now at that time, I was working at that stage. I was leasing 2 pubs, so my
diet was tough.
My diet was tough. My hours were tough. And. It was all over the place.
So were you up and down?
I was up and down. Yeah. I was up and down, and I still am, Paddy.
Sure, tell us all about it. And with that, I mean, when you're playing football, say the night before a big match, you're playing a championship match with Cavan, you're playing first round of Ulster. What do you eat the night before? I mean, are you told to eat a load of pasta? How does it work? Yeah, well,
you'd be carb loading towards the end of the week, and then.
So have you a set plan for the whole week?
Oh, you would have had a set plan, and you would have been told what you were eating and whatever. And what I used to, because I used to have the pub down in Ballyconnell least, and the day before I'd usually be working. We'll say it was a Friday or Saturday night, I'd be working, so I'd order my food from the Chinese next door. Now I know that sounds terrible, but I used to ask them for a plain breast of chicken, boiled rice, and just some ketchup. And that was it. That's what I would have been eating at that stage, before a game, the night before a game.
And plenty of water, I suppose.
Water was the main thing. I mean, you just could not get, because the following day you'd go in, you'd be in the dressing room, and you'd have to do a urine test. So you would, to see if you were dehydrated or not.
So is this coming from the management?
Oh, this is coming from the management and the dietitian and everybody. Yeah, and you had these little sample tubs, and you'd have to pee into it, and everybody'd have to write their name in it, put it into a slot.
How long before the match?
This would be 2 hours before the game.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and then they'd check all of them one by one, and they'd say, right, well, Mickey's starting at wing back, he's going to need more. So they give you maybe a diorolite and a pint of water, or 2 pints of water, and say, get that into you.
And would your position depend on how hydrated you need to be?
Yeah, absolutely.
So full forward, stuck in there, picking up.
Yeah, he could be dehydrated, it wouldn't matter.
No coincidence.
Get the ball into.
No coincidence. That's where you finish your career.
Yeah, exactly.
And at the half time in a match, are you given food? Are you given fruit?
Fruit.
The whole Jaffa cake rumour.
No. Jaffa cakes, fruit, jellies. All that's in there. It's there available for you. And the thing about it is that the sugar rush. So jellies, if you eat 5 or 6 jellies, you're going to get an initial kick of sugar, and to give you that burst of energy for the first 10-15 minutes.
But then does that die down?
Yeah, it'll slowly burn off. So that's where you maybe eat a banana as well for the last quarter of the game or whatever.
And is there a risk of eating too much at halftime?
Oh yeah, there's always a risk of eating too much.
But as in...
Yeah, you just have to control it, you just enough.
And are they controlling it for you, or you trusted you?
Well, they trusted you, and at that level, you have to be able to trust yourself as well, so...
I suppose you've all put in so much work, you're not going to ruin it by picking out and chopping it at halftime. And what about then after a match? Is there recovery food?
Yeah, there's a recovery food, and that'd normally be a pasta and a meat, so it would...
Plain as well?
Exactly, yeah, so you're just putting back into the body what you're after taking out in the match.
And what about drinks? I mean, as in alcohol drinks. Everyone, have you been put on alcohol bans?
Oh yeah, you used to.
Club, county, both?
Both. Counties more so obviously, but club as well. I used to go off the drink from New Year's Eve until the championship would end.
Completely?
Yeah.
And would everybody be doing the same?
Yeah, everybody would be doing the same. Like, and you'd have a few bowel pups who might just, sneak in.
It's a big sacrifice though, isn't it?
It's huge.
You see rugby players having pints after games and they're professionals, and I know that the athleticism is different, but it seems a lot to ask for people to miss out on family events and weddings.
Yeah, well, look, the family events and weddings and all that, like, that's part and parcel of it. You take that on the chin. Now, you would get a bit of leeway during the year, where on, we'll say, after your first league match, you'll be allowed to, because there might be a 2-week gap, or the first league match where there's a 2-week gap, you'd be allowed to go on the beer after that. And then after your first championship match, you'd be allowed to go out that night. But again, the problem is that, like, if the game was on a Saturday and you were told, like, you're allowed to go out for a few pints tonight, like, the lads would do the dog and all on the Saturday and then do the Sunday and maybe even go to an early house on a Monday. So the dedication from some people was not always there,
But I suppose, like, everybody's playing football, they're young men mostly, but they're adults as well, and to hear things like they're allowed to, it just seems very strange.
Yeah, well, see, because it's an amateur game.
Yeah.
Like, whereas if it's professional, you can bring them in and you can say, right, well, look, we know you were out, there's videos, you were drinking, blah, 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 and you can punish them by taking wages off them or something. But in an amateur game, it's all, everybody is going there for the good of their club or their county.
And you're representing your parish.
And you're representing your parish and your family and your county and your club and the whole lot. So the onus is on you.
And I suppose the only punishment has been dropped.
And the only punishment has been dropped. You can't take wages off them or anything like that, and you can't fine them.
And what about from a camaraderie or team bonding point of view? I mean, were you encouraged to go out after games and stick together, or were you let go your own way, or what was the rules?
Well, you were let go your own way, but you were encouraged to go out together and, to be respectful.
So Simonstown won their first Cavan Cup
2016.
Was diet a role in it?
No, we'd have stuff after games, but like the onus was put on the players, and that was the brilliant thing about it, is that any team player who wants to be successful and wants to succeed as a player themselves will look after themselves. So, and again, Colin never put drink bans or anything like that, and he said, look lads, you can go out for a few pints tonight, but
don't be stupid.
Don't be stupid. And again, if you give them the responsibility, there was a couple of stupid feckers, like,
there's always going to be young men,
one or two. But we'd take them in on a Tuesday night at training, and we'd have the talk about it, and they'd always know that they were caught.
It's always interesting to hear about the football. The professionalism thing that's kind of coming in. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. I miss the days where you'd hear about lads going and drinking 10 brandies before an All-Ireland final, but it's probably good for the sport that it's like that. But it's interesting to get an insight of it. Let's move on and talk a bit about yourself. So say are you a good chef? Do you cook?
I cook a little bit, yeah. Like I can throw my hand to stuff, and I can I can pull a recipe off the internet and I can cook it.
You can follow it, yeah.
Now, I usually don't like the recipes, so I have to, maybe manipulate them a little bit so that they incorporate some of my favourite things into it. Like there'll be something that might look nice. Yeah, basil, goat's cheese. I wanted to be kind of metropolitan. But
so say you're at home with your partner and your kids. What are you cooking? Do you cook something for everybody? Do you cook different food for the kids, different food for her?
I cook for my partner on a Thursday evening, and then I cook for my kids on a Wednesday and a Friday and a Saturday. I don't know if anybody knows the dynamic, but my kids live with their mother for most of the week and with me for the rest of the week, so I have them on a Wednesday, a Friday and a Saturday. So I would cook for them, and in fairness, they're great little grubbers. Yeah. And I make a lovely pesto penne pasta, a chicken pesto penne pasta. Lovely. They love that. And
how old are the kids?
The twins are 7.5, and Lily is 3.5, just gone 3 and 4 months or something like that. But who's counting?
And they're eating well.
Yeah, they're eating well. They love. As I said, I'll make different dishes for them, and they'll always eat them. They love curries. They love the pasta dishes. They love your normal pork chop dinners and stuff. But one thing that I've introduced them to recently is basil mash, but I put a bit of pesto into it as well. Lovely. And this is the new thing. They love pesto basil mash.
Is that what they call it?
Yeah.
Pesto basil mash.
Pesto basil mash. And they absolutely love it. So, and I love it. It's just amazing. And anybody wants to try it out there. Now, I have bought the rights to it. So if you are going to try it,
Basil
you're going to have
pesto
pesto mash. But it's fabulous, and it's so simple. You know, you just get a really good mash. You know, if you make it yourself, or if you want to buy the pre-mashed potato in Super Value or whatever, go and get it. But just get a couple of spoons of pesto and mix it through it, and it's lovely, and the kids love it. Yeah, so the kids are great rubbers. And then, as you said, like my partner Cavan, I would cook for her on a Thursday, and I usually do go to the recipe book for something, Jamie Oliver or whatever, like, you know, and just try to keep it fresh and new.
And say you're home on your own, there's no one in the house, you have an evening to yourself, there's a match on, or you're gonna, after a podcast recording, what are you cooking for yourself if you're cooking anything?
I'm making a ham and cheese sandwich.
Really?
Ham and cheese, and I will have 3 of them. I will have 3 ham and cheese sandwiches. But yeah, like now I might throw in a bit of chicken into that as well. Like,
toasted or untoasted? I can't remember what you said.
Well, see, for a sandwich, I prefer it to be non-toasted, but for bread on its own, it has to be toasted.
Okay.
And a good bread, like, as well, like a soda.
And a pint of milk.
And a pint of milk, yeah. Well, do you know what my new one is? I love a bottle of sparkling water with a dash of cordial in it.
Okay.
That's that. I drink that.
You like the
non-stop.
bubbles. And if you're heading out with herself, is there any restaurants in particular you like, or any special restaurants you've had, or where would you go for dinner?
Oh, well, no, I like casual dining. So, now we've been to Nevin Maguire's a couple of times for lunch, which is just an absolute treat. It's absolutely beautiful.
On a Sunday, or?
On a Sunday, yeah. Went one Sunday, and then we went one Paddy's Day, which just happened to be a Sunday as well. And it was amazing.
Yeah, it's very special.
Oh, it's just such an experience. But in general, you know, you can't be going down to Nevin Maguire's every weekend.
Unfortunately.
So, you know, we vary. We go from the local casual dining to bistros to Indians, and yeah.
It's Thursday this evening. You're going to, in an hour, to see herself and have a dinner. Where are you going to go to? Where's your pick?
Well, it'll probably be Murph's Bistro in Cavan. In Butler's Bridge in Cavan. It overlooks the river there.
So a little bit of romance.
A little bit of romance, but it's just beautiful. It's a lovely setting. There's also the Oak Room in Cavan Town. My partner's from Cavan, so it makes more sense to go to for a restaurant there. But if I was going to Navan, there's only one, and that's Room 8. I can't, like, for breakfast, lunch or dinner.
It's been mentioned here a couple of times.
Oh my God, like Aidan, just incredible. Yeah.
And what if you were heading, would you ever go to Dublin too? I mean, now you're in the wine trade, you're calling into a lot of places. Are any of them you'd be interested in going to?
No, I did that whole Dublin thing back when we were in the restaurants ourselves and whatever, and like they're fabulous restaurants, and it's again, if there's a gig on in Dublin or something like that, post COVID, and you're going up, you're gonna go for a meal and you're gonna go somewhere nice, but. No, it's a bit pretentious in Dublin for me.
Just keep it local.
Yeah, keep it local and keep the money in the local economy as well.
And from good food to bad, what's your weakness? Is there anything that you struggle with?
That's my weakness.
Yeah.
Crab meat, Paddy. Crab meat. That's my weakness.
Okay, I suppose now is the time to tell that story. So a few years back, God, way too many years that I care to remember, myself and Micky were down at the opening of the restaurant in Cavan, and it was a big opening. There was a huge invite list. There was about 500 bottles of wine, and mine and Micky's job was to open all the wines and to make sure nobody ever had an empty glass. So of course they started and the crap was flying, and then Micky decided he didn't decide, he was told to go and get the food, so that was fine, there was enough bottles open. But Cavan being Cavan, there was a lot of people looking for a lot of wine, and Micky never came back. So I was pulling corks out of bottles of wine at 100 miles an hour and getting thicker and thicker, because as far as I was concerned, Micky was away chatting to a gang of ladies or down the back having a fag break or basically doing anything except work. And when I went looking for him, I was told that Micky was being rushed to hospital. I didn't have a clue what was going on. Turns out Micky had eaten a crab cake, took violent anaphylactic shock, which brought about his asthma, and he was nearly dead. So yeah, Micky, do you want to tell us all about it?
Yeah, so that's the Paddy just is missing the middle part. He's the start and the end, right? So I get asked to go in and start bringing out the trays of food to the different tables, and I brought out a tray of food to a table, and they asked me what the spread of food was, and I hadn't had a chance. As Paddy said, we were working behind the bar. I hadn't had a chance to ask the chef, so I knew a few of the things that were on the tray, but there was one thing I didn't know, and that was a crab cake. I wasn't sure what it was, so I just took one and ate it. And I says, do you know what? I'm not sure what that is, but it's absolutely beautiful. I went back into the kitchen, found out from the chef that it was a crab cake, came back out and told them. This was about 35 seconds, I'd say. And I told them that it was a crab cake. And by the time I got back to them, I could feel my face was a bit itchy. So I went back in to get a glass of water from the kitchen. And at this stage, my eyes had started running and my tongue had started to swell. And within 2 minutes of eating the crab cake, I was suffering from anaphylactic shock. So there was another guy working with us at the time, Owen, and Owen was, my sister Mary was working in the restaurant that night, and she says, he's after taking an allergic reaction, get him to the hospital straight away. So Owen got the car, we jumped into the car, we had no idea where we were going. It took us about 10 minutes to get to the hospital, and by the time I got to the hospital, my whole throat was completely closed. I hadn't been breathing properly for maybe 5 minutes at this stage. I was just taking in a couple of gasps of air. Went into the A&E, and I was a bit like, embarrassed about going in, and as soon as they saw me, they just opened the doors, rushed me through.
Like something in a movie.
Oh yeah, it was just like a movie. Rushed me through, threw me on a bed, and the next thing is there was 6 doctors and about 8 nurses around me, and they were trying to figure out, and they were asking me questions, and I was starting to go unconscious, coming in and out of conscious.
Wow.
Out of consciousness, and you've seen Pulp Fiction,
yeah.
You know the needle where
into the heart,
the overdose, and the adrenaline straight into the heart. So I was coming in and out of consciousness at this stage, and there was 2 doctors over me, and one of them said, "This is our last hope." And
you were aware of this?
I was aware of this. Yeah, I was coming in and out of consciousness, and the next thing is I saw him taking out this I don't know what it looked like a. It looked like a dagger, like so it did, and my eyes opened at this stage, and I was like, "No, let me die! I'm not taking that needle in." So the other doctor pressed down on my stomach and down on my diaphragm, and the doctor holding this bloody sword shoved it up through the diaphragm, underneath the rib cage, straight into the heart, and the adrenaline was like I don't know, it must have been about 2 litres of adrenaline was pumped straight into my heart. Well, it's not 2 litres, I'm exaggerating. And straight away I felt it going through my body, and
So did you perk up straight away?
I started to perk up straight away. I could literally, it was nearly instantaneous, but it was a slow, gradual comeback over the course of about 4 or 5 minutes.
And I know you said there, let me die, kind of joking. Did you know that you were that bad? Did you know how close
I didn't realise how bad I was, but I did think I was going unconscious. I thought, these are doctors, they'll save me. And they were amazing. I have to say, they were absolutely incredible. They did save me.
When did you realise how close you were?
So about 20 minutes later, I'm lying on the bed and I'm nearly back fully. I could have nearly gone back to work at this stage. Everything was gone and the whole lot, but they had me on a...
Spoiler alert, he didn't come back to work.
Go on. They had me on a ventilator, and they had on me loads of different pipes and whatever connected to me. And at this stage they calmed down, and I was left with maybe 1 doctor and 2 doctors and maybe 3 or 4 nurses just making sure I was alright, and they were like going, "You got out of jail there, buddy." And then they brought me up to one of the wards, and for the whole night, I mean, there must have been 15 nurses popped their head in and went, "You're the lucky one, I heard."
Wow.
"You're the lucky one, I heard." And everything looked, and the following morning, everything looked a little bit brighter, Paddy. The sky was bluer, the grass was greener.
Well, let me go back.
Your smile was bigger.
Let me go back and tell him from my story. So that night we were supposed to go to a good friend of ours, 21st in Cavan, Andy Faulkner. So the longer the night went on, and I found Mickey wasn't coming back, the thicker I was getting. And then somebody told me it was pretty serious, but I was still pretty thick. The next morning, Micky Brennan bounces in the door. I'm like, "Here comes this." Tells me the whole story. So after all my cursing, I was just glad to see that he was still alive. I kind of didn't believe him until I heard it from other people as well. Because the difference, when I saw him last, he was handing out food. The next morning I saw him, there wasn't a bother, him bouncing upstairs with a smile on the face. I didn't realise how close it was, and it was amazing what he went through in the space of about, 15 hours?
Yeah. Not even 15 hours. It was like, I suppose the whole thing lasted about an hour and a half, and then the rest of it was recovery, but I was fine by the next morning.
Any long-term Side effects?
Well, no side effects. Well, maybe that's an excuse actually.
Yeah.
But it just means that I have to carry an EpiPen and I have to be careful of my allergies. You know, and since then, like I've had a couple of small allergic reactions to nuts and stuff like that, which I never would have had before.
Yeah.
Now at this stage, I seem to have kind of grown out of it again.
But you haven't had any crab
but
since.
I ain't touching a crab. Do you know what I always think when I'm at the beach? I wonder if a crab if he bit me, would he have an allergic reaction to me? Because that would be just poetry. So
sweet revenge.
Oh, sweet revenge if I got bitten by one and he started joking in front of me. I don't know how I'd save him though.
No, at least let him go and give him to me, geez. But come back then, your weakness. I mean, do you struggle with chocolate or ice cream or do you know?
Is this just
Coca-Cola?
Is this just going to turn into all my ailments? I struggle with sweet things because I'm a diabetic now as well.
So you can't eat sweet things.
Well, no. See, that's the funny thing. Again, very quick synopsis on diabetes. Type 1 and type 2 are completely different diseases. Type 2 is down to diet and weight and stuff like that. Type 1 is a genetic thing where you've just got diabetes.
And which are you?
But I'm type 1, and that means I'm insulin dependent. That means I have to inject. That means that basically your pancreas has fought against its own the cells that make your insulin.
Okay.
And you just don't produce insulin. So I take artificial insulin basically.
So
I can eat anything I want. This is the funny thing. People don't think you can eat anything you want as long as you inject accordingly. When you've got type 1. Type 2 you have to watch it out. You can't eat sweet things and whatever. What's my weakness? I suppose cheese, mayonnaise. Mayonnaise.
You love mayonnaise?
Oh, do I love mayonnaise. Oh my good gosh.
Do you put onion in your basil pesto mash?
It goes on the side, so it does. Can I just say that no matter what meal I'm having, mayonnaise goes on the side. And there's usually some sort of an incorporation of cheese in it as well. Cheese and mayonnaise, I couldn't live without them, Paddy.
Good.
Don't even, you know.
Well, that was going to be one of my questions. If I was to ask you the ingredient you couldn't live without, is that what it is? Mayonnaise, cheese, or is there something
mayonnaise
else?
And cheese? Yeah, I think they're duo.
And if that, okay, cheesy mayonnaise.
Cheesy mayonnaise, yeah.
Okay. And what about if you had to get rid of one ingredient? Is there something that you absolutely detest or you hate that you'd happily rid the world of?
Coriander, Paddy. Coriander. Don't look at me like that, Paddy. Coriander goes.
Interesting. Why are you so anti-coriander?
Because it is the devil. Coriander. Okay, look, in recent years I've kind of mellowed a little bit towards coriander. It goes really well in some Thai dishes and some like Mexican dishes like a chicken fajita or something like that. And it adds to the flavour, basically because it's killed, like the flavour's completely gone of it. But like in a salad or anything like that, if I'm eating a salad and the next thing is I get a lump of coriander,
it's all you can taste.
Oh Jesus! It's all I can taste then, and it just ruins it. But look, it's the one thing that I would get rid of. Yeah, okay, that and cucumbers probably. Yeah.
I'm with you on cucumber, not so much coriander.
Yeah. Okay, cucumbers are good for your belly apparently, so you know I'll keep them just for medicinal purposes because I've got enough medical problems.
Yeah, you don't need any more. Right, let's move on a little bit and talk about drink. So. Drink is actually playing a huge role in your life because you're a wine rep.
Yes, yeah.
So you work with Tindal Wines.
Tindal Wine Merchants, and I am a wine rep with them. I have studied WSET level 1 and level 2, which is not very high at all. So it's not.
You have to start somewhere.
You have to start somewhere, and I have to do WSET level 3, and then hopefully I'll go on and do a diploma in the next number of years.
Very good.
In wine, but yeah, I love it.
The problem, I suppose, with learning about wine is you'll never ever know enough.
You won't. You'll never ever know enough, and that's the thing, and that's the beauty of it as well. You know, because you know, it just means that you're always learning. And the way the world is going at the moment, with I suppose you know, the environment changing everywhere and global warming and stuff, it's changing the tastes of wines, it's changing the areas where you can grow certain wines, and then obviously the terroir is huge in wine, and that can determine the taste of a wine, but then all of a sudden that area is now too cold or too hot to be growing that, so you have to move it to a new area, and the terroir is going to be completely different, which will give it totally different taste.
It must be very intimidating trying to learn about wine.
It is, yeah.
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 It's fun but intimidating, I imagine.
It is, and you know, you do feel nervous going into high end restaurants where you know that the people you're going in to talk to know way more about wine than you, and you're trying to blag your way. But the worst thing you can do is blag, because you have to just be honest and say, look, this is the level of my knowledge of wine.
Yeah.
I'm going to learn from you, but you know,
if you walk into say chapter 1 and talk to the sommelier, it's their life to know more about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and are you enjoying tasting all the wines? How's your palate?
Yeah, no. Again, it's weird. I am tasting an awful lot of wines, and I do enjoy a glass of wine, so that's fairly easy. But I don't know why, but I'm still stuck on the wines that I've always liked. Even with the more knowledge you get, it's still maybe the grape varietals. I still like the same grape varietals that I liked maybe 10 years ago. You know, so which is interesting, and you're supposed to, I suppose, as the more educated you get, you're supposed to broaden your horizons when it comes to wines or whatever. And I still find the ones that I liked 10 years ago are the ones that I go back to.
And would Tindal's be giving you bottles here and there, saying, "Look, go home, try this," or do you do it as part of tasting?
We do it as part of tasting. You wouldn't be sent home with wines or whatever that often. You know, but
is it difficult to be because you're on the road obviously a lot as a sales rep? Is it difficult to be spitting out wines and worrying, God, is there going to be a smell of wine on me if I get pulled over? Is that something that comes into your mind at all, or is that just...
Well, look, if you're spitting out the wines and there's a smell of wine off you, it's fine if you get tested, because you're not going to be. But as for being worried about it, yeah, you have to be worried about being pissed, obviously, when you're driving on the road. But obviously, I don't drink that often. The funny thing is, and then the whole drink nature of the country has changed as well. I'll have a couple of glasses on a Saturday night maybe of wine, and then if I go for a meal I'll have a glass of wine or whatever, but school night drinking for me anymore.
None of that. And I mentioned earlier on your podcast, I heard it through the grapevine, you do that with Harriet Tindal.
I do. Harriet Tindal, who's a master of wine.
I was just going to say, talk about being intimidated. This is one of only 300 and something masters of wine in the whole world. 394.
Now, I think last week there was another 24.
Oh, that makes it so much less intimidating.
Yeah, 24 inducted.
So you're doing a podcast with somebody who is one of the top 400 people in the world.
Yeah.
You're glad to be asking the questions.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. It does be intimidating though, Paddy, because sometimes Harriet will turn around and ask me a question to see if I've learned anything from the WSET training.
I've heard. I listened to the podcast.
Yeah, and she catches me out, but she's so lovely and she's so approachable as well.
And she seems like a bit of crack.
She is. She's great fun. You know, and she's great.
It's funny when she does stump you with a question. I wonder how many he's edited out.
Yeah, I do the editing on the podcast, so I usually just tend to leave one. I can't take them all out.
Yeah, and you're doing an A to Z of wine at the moment.
We're doing an A to Z of wines at the moment. It's called the Walphabet.
The Walphabet.
Yeah, the wine and alphabet mixed together.
And it's a good way to learn and give it a bit of the structure.
Yeah, like the podcast. The whole idea of the podcast is there's maybe 10% of the nation out there who know a lot about wine, but 90% of people who drink wine don't know a huge pile about it.
Yeah.
So we're just trying to give them the tools for going in to a supermarket or an off license or wherever it is, or a restaurant, and being able to choose a wine based on some of the knowledge that we tell them through the podcast.
So it might expand their knowledge a little bit.
Exactly. Like, for instance, the Sauvignon Blancs, for instance. Everybody loves Sauvignon Blanc when they go to a restaurant. But, a Chilean Sauvignon Blanc there's going to be a higher acidity to that than there is to a Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc, which is going to have, it's bursting with flavours. It's going to be more complex than your normal Sauvignon Blanc. Nothing wrong with your normal Chilean Sauvignon Blanc.
You're just getting a bit more bang for your buck.
You're just getting a bit more bang for your buck, and you're getting that extra kick of flavour and stuff. So little things like that, they're the things. And then, even for... we have an acronym that we use. It's BLIC. It's balance, length, intensity, and complexity. So, for me, I find that the one major thing in there is length. Okay. The length of the flavours in your mouth. So the longer the flavours last in your mouth, we'll say anything over 10 seconds, that shows a higher quality of wine. Okay. And again, it's good for when you are enjoying a bottle of wine that you get a longer flavour in your mouth, because you don't find yourself drinking going back to get that kick of flavours.
So say now you're at home at the weekend, you're having a couple of glasses of wine. Are you able to separate it now, or are you thinking about the wine the whole time?
Oh no, I can separate.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can separate. Yeah.
Even on the first sip, you're not going, okay,
Okay, on the first sip, I'm swirling it, I'm smelling it, I'm tasting it, and whatever, and then the rest of it, I'm just lumping it into my body.
And tell me, so obviously we're friends a long, long time, and we were friends when we were like 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So I remember us drinking all the crazy crap, you know, the top shelf, going by bottle, and Bulmers with peach schnapps in, and all these horrendous things. I can't believe I'm even admitting to drink it. Is it weird now, like talking about Chateau Montelena earlier on, and Pinot Noir, and like these things that are regarded as fine wines? Is it weird coming from where we came from to now?
I think it's a progression, isn't
it? It is, yeah.
You know, and it is part of the progression. And like, in fairness, you said, like, we went across the top shelf drinking them. Now, we were drinking them to get drunk, but like at the same time, we were figuring out which of those top shelves we like. It was all these crazy drinks, like, that nobody knows of, like green chartreuse.
Yeah, I remember down in Ash's pub in Dingle. I think it's a restaurant now, but at the time we went and we got 4 in. I think we had green chartreuse, we had some kind of watermelon, and then we wanted the 4th one, and the guy behind the bar says, "You don't want that one?" Which, of course, we were like, "Yeah, we do." He goes, "Yeah." It's a brandy to commemorate the something jubilee of some queen. It's 150 quid a shot. We'll skip that one, of course. But I often find that, like, if you had told the teenage Paddy and Mickey sitting in that pub all those years ago that in 20 years or however many years it is that we'd be sitting here talking about, you know, blick and length and complexity, I think we would have laughed at ourselves. But it is, as you said, it's a progression. Say outside of wine, what do you have a favourite drink? What would you drink if you're walking into a pub and you're having a drink? What do you order?
Okay, well, you know, if I'm first of all, I'll start off in a pint of Heineken.
Okay.
You know, I will start off in a pint of Heineken, but you know, maybe 3 pints of Heineken in, I will, you know, probably make the excuse that I'm a little bit full from the beer. I need to go on gin and tonic, and then I'll go into gin and tonic. And I'm not a gin and tonic drinker since the whole thing blew up and became trendy. I'm drinking gin and tonic since not 30 years ago.
You're drinking gin and tonic since it wasn't in fancy glasses.
Exactly, since it was in Slim Jims. You know, and it was CDC gin with Schweppes bitter lemon or...
And you know how many you have that counted the lemons.
Exactly, now you said it.
So and tell me now, what would you go for? Now that you're a bit more knowledgeable and you're progressed through your alcohol, I mean, is there any gins you like?
Oh, there's a few gins that I do like. I do like Hendrick's. There's a new one on the market there at the moment. It's called Wild Gin, and it's beautiful. It's got loads of citrus botanicals in it, and it is just fabulous.
I'm guessing it might be on the Tindal portfolio.
Well, funnily enough, you mentioned it, Paddy.
Always the salesman.
Yeah, no, but it is. It's gorgeous. It's a high end gin, and the bottle itself is purple. And it's a square bottle with Oscar Wilde's cane is the lid. Cool. It's a fabulous little bottle. Actually, I'll show it to you afterwards. I've got it in the car.
So say end of the night, you've moved on from gin and tonics, you're going to have a cocktail. What are you going to shout for?
No, I'm going to have a brandy, Paddy.
Brandy?
Oh, I'm going to finish with a brandy.
And tell me, I'll let you go here because you're doing me the favour of sitting down with me. What brandy is in the Tindal portfolio that you would recommend?
Well, no. It'd be too expensive for me to be drinking on a night out.
Really? What is it?
It's Delaman. And it's absolutely fabulous. But look, I do love a Hennessy and I do love Remy Martin. So, you know, you don't have to go top end. But like the higher up you go in brandy, the smoother it is. You know, that's what I find. It doesn't burn as much.
So you'd sit and savour brandy after dinner? So.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I love a brandy. Now, I know you're a whiskey connoisseur. And you know...
Whiskey nerd. I hate the term connoisseur.
You know I'd love to be able to drink whiskey, but I just can't drink the bloody stuff. It just... I can't... It won't... My body won't allow me to drink whiskey. It's not that I become angry, or it's not that I, you know, become a lunatic on whiskey or whatever. I literally vomit at the taste of it. That's the problem.
I'd be the same with tequila.
I'd love to be able to drink it, but I can't.
And then, if you're going for a pub, do you have any favourite pubs? Cavan, Meath, Dublin? Any that particular grabs your fancy?
There's... Like, yeah, I'm not fussy with my pubs. I do like Birmingham's in Navan. I like the Royal Mead. The lodge, the lodge in Navan was our little home when we were growing up. And the Round O Bar. I love the Round O in Navan as well. Again, it just depends on what you're at of an evening. Yeah. You know, if you're going for a couple of pints or whatever, or if you're going for a session or whatever. I love Larry and Nora's in Navan as well. That's a pretty cool place to go for a pint as well. Around Cavan, you know, I love going into Butler's Bridge to the Highball Inn. I think that's closed at the moment though. And then Peter McGinty's bar in Cavan.
Peter McGinty's bar and travel agents.
Yeah, the travel agents is gone.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
that's
it is.
I always love that.
Sure, nobody's going anywhere at the minute, Paddy.
Yeah.
You can't sell a staycation through that.
And if you let yourself go out, you have the session, you wake up the next morning, you're hungover. What's your cure? Do you have a cure?
Well, it's definitely not the hair of the dog anyway, that's for sure. No, just a good breakfast. Sparkling water, yeah.
Dash of cordial.
And yeah, with a dash of cordial. But do you know what? I don't. It's similar. The funny thing is, right? Gin, I don't like it on its own. Tonic, I don't like it on its own. But you put the two of them together, that's a taste sensation.
Okay.
And I just love it. Same with sparkling water. I don't like sparkling water on its own. So I don't.
I'm guessing you don't like cordial.
And I don't like cordial on its own. But you put them together. No, but on the day after a session and I'm dying, I will drink a bottle of sparkling water on its own, more as a punishment to myself. I do, and I will drink, and I force myself to drink sparkling water as a punishment for getting in such a state the night beforehand. But that happens very, very rarely these days. 3 kids will put a stop to your gallop and that sense of things.
I hear that. I have a 17-month-old myself, and hangovers just ain't worth it. Okay, I think we'll leave it there for a second. Hangovers is always a good way to stop. So we will take a little break. We'll maybe grab a coffee, and we'll be back for part 2. Welcome back to the Chopping Block Podcast, where my guest is wine rep and podcaster Micky Brennan. So every week I ask my guest for a recipe. It can be something they cook or something that they love having cooked for them. I'll then take their recipe, cook it, and I'll share the process on my Instagram story. Now obviously I'm not a chef, so it could go completely wrong, but whatever happens you can watch along on our Instagram story. So Micky, what's the recipe you have for me?
Well, Paddy, I suppose you did say that you're not a chef, so I'm going to keep it simple.
Good. Simplicity is good.
But simple in a good way, definitely. My recipe is an apple and goat's cheese salad.
Lovely.
Yeah, it's absolutely divine. It's my favourite. Again, there's cheese in it. You know, the only thing is that the variation to this is that I may put a bit of mayonnaise on the side of this dish, but like most people won't. Mayonnaise and apple tend to not go together. But apple and goat's cheese. So you need we'll say a golden delicious apple, or if you want to go for the acidity, go for a Granny Smith.
Okay.
A nice roll of goat's cheese, maybe a Michael Finnegan.
Just going to say, I'm using Boyne Valley Blue from across the fields. I'm sure
Boyne
Michael will look after me.
Oh, fabulous cheese as well it is.
And would you use the blue cheese, or would you use the white cheese, the Boyne?
It's the Bourne I'd use.
Yeah,
I've used the Bourne for this before, and it's just divine.
Okay.
So it is. So what you need to do is you need to decore your apple, okay, and then cut it into discs. You then cut some discs of the ghost cheese Bourne from Michael Finnegan's. You stack them together. So an apple, a ghost cheese, an apple, a ghost cheese, an apple and a ghost cheese. We'll do 3 of each.
Okay.
The bigger the better, I think. So you basically bake that in an oven for maybe 2 or 3 minutes. You keep an eye on it.
That's all.
Yeah, 2 or 3 minutes, just until the apple warms up a little bit and the ghost cheese just starting to melt and it's just starting to maybe crisp on the outside of it.
Okay.
So it doesn't have to be long. Keep an eye on it yourself.
You don't use oil or honey? Or
no oil, no honey, no nothing.
Okay.
So when that comes out, you've got a plate ready and you've got some rocket salad on it.
Okay.
So your rocket salad is sprinkled across the plate. You put your tower right in the middle of it. Okay, and then you've already you've got some pine nuts and you're just after toasting them on a pan.
Lovely.
Okay, so when you put your tower down, get your pine nuts, sprinkle them across the top, and then the last thing that you need is a nice balsamic reduction, a nice balsamic drizzle.
Okay.
So you can buy this balsamic drizzle, or you can make it yourself. So just with some balsamic vinegar, a nice good Italian balsamic vinegar, some brown sugar, and just reduce it until it's sticky. You just drizzle that across the top of it, and Paddy, there you go. It's done. It's absolutely fabulous.
And only a couple of minutes.
Only a couple of minutes.
And is the apple still raw then?
Well, the apple will be just warm. It doesn't need to be fully cooked, because your goat's cheese is going to take all the heat.
Okay.
So you get that nice mixture of kind of, just tepid apple and then the nice hot goat's cheese, melted goat's cheese on it. And it is just divine. It's my favourite thing in the whole world. My sister Mary invented that, I believe, a good few years ago, and it's a brilliant little starter as well for if you're having friends over.
Okay, and let me put you on the spot then as a wine rep. You're pairing this with a wine. What are you gonna put with it?
Oh well, yeah, like you're going to have to go again. I've mentioned it already, but I think it's a Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc with that. You know these.
And if you're picking one from the Tindal portfolio.
Oh, walnut block. I'd go for the Nutcracker Reserve. I think I brought a present out to you for your birthday.
You did,
the Nutcracker
yeah. It
Reserve
was
with the Sauvignon Blanc, and it is just. It's just a fabulous wine, so it is.
and goes well. I would probably go with Granny Smith's. I like that bit of acidity.
Yeah.
So I'd imagine the Sauvignon Blanc could cut right through that.
Exactly. That's my thinking on it. You know, so I don't think a Chablis or a Chardonnay is going to go well with this starter, but definitely a Sauvignon Blanc.
The fruit is something like excellent. Okay, I look forward to cooking it. It's I had it actually years and years ago, but I haven't had it in a while, so that'll be fun to cook and nice. And thank you for the simplicity. I'm dreading the day somebody brings up a lobster dinner or a lobster thermidor or something. I have to do it.
Well, actually,
so okay, that'll be fun cooking that, and it'll be on Instagram. What could go wrong with it? If I leave it in too long?
Yeah, if you look, the only thing that can go wrong with it is that your terror falls. You know, and you just want to, for presentation purposes and for aesthetics, you want it to be a nice terror.
Toothpicks?
Toothpicks is a good idea. Yeah, that is a very good idea, but don't eat them.
That's a good tip.
That's a better tip.
Okay, right. Well, let's get on to our last feature of the podcast.
Okay.
So I have to say this is the bit I probably enjoy the most. What I look for of everybody is I look for their perfect meal. Originally I was going to call this the death row dinner, but obviously in the time of COVID nobody wants to talk about death row meals. I want to talk about a perfect meal. I want to keep it happy. So I'm offering you, as a base, I'm offering you 3 courses with drinks to match, but you can add or change anything you want. You can have aperitifs, pre-desserts. It's your meal, you can have what you want. You can have your own cooking, dishes from your favourite restaurant, your mammy's Sunday roast, you can have gin, you can have brandy. You could even have that very special magnum of red that's probably under lock and key in Tindal headquarters. The choices are endless. So Mickey, what's on your perfect meal menu?
Right, so I'm going to come in and sit down, and before I even start cooking, I think I'll have a gin and tonic.
Good, wild gin?
Just, yeah, it'll be a wild gin with a citrus tonic, a poacher citrus tonic, and some big chopped orange, maybe a bit of lemon and a bit of lime in the glass, but more so orange.
Goldfish bowl or fancy Slim Jim?
Oh, goldfish bowl.
Goldfish bowl.
Oh, absolutely, Paddy. We're going full hog in this, so yeah. Yes, I came from the days of the Slim Jim. I've done both.
Now I'm full of pretension.
I've done my time with the Slim Jims.
You've served your scholarship.
I've served my scholarship with the Slim Jims. I'm moving on to the fish bowl. I love the fish bowls. I think I just love them.
Yeah.
And it's nearly a contradiction in terms when people see me drinking out of one of them, because you know the footballer, you know the big lad, the 6'1", and then he's carrying this fish bowl
with fruit.
I love it.
Put a little umbrella in there.
Exactly, the umbrella in the hair. So yeah, I'm going to have my gin and tonic first, because I know you're saying it's not a death row dinner, but I'm still in the thinking that that's what it is. The perfect dinner.
Well, it's your podcast. So, you can interpret it however you want.
Yeah. So and then I'm going to have the goat's cheese starter that we just mentioned.
And I'm guessing then you're going to have the walnut block.
And I'm going to have the walnut block with that. I'm going to have the white wine with that. Then I'm going to go on to the main course, and I'm going to have. I think I'm going to have pork belly.
Oh.
Yeah, nice pork belly. That's been marinated in some cider, and a nice crispy skin on the pork belly, with some mash and some really buttery vegetables.
Basil pesto mash?
Basil pesto mash. Basil pesto mash, definitely.
And buttery vegetables. And tell me, are they going to be blitzed, blended, or are they going to be?
No, they're not going to be blended. They're going to be al dente. Again, we've made this progression onto the finer things of food. So yeah, I'm just trying to think. Is there anything else that I would have with my main course?
Crispy pork belly. I love pork belly.
Oh, I love pork.
Would you cook it yourself? Would you have somebody cook it?
Oh no, it's been cooked for me.
Yeah,
it's been cooked.
Nice crispy skin.
Lovely crispy skin.
A cider. So you like your apples? Apple starter, a little bit of apple in the main course.
Yeah. Well, but look, cider and pig's belly go so well together. The apple sauce and whatever, like so. Yeah, that's you know, it's funny because I do like a good steak. I love chicken. You know, I'm not a big fan of lamb myself. But I suppose the pork belly is just whenever I see it on the menu,
soft underneath and lovely crispy skin.
Oh, stop!
Or crackling, I should say. Yeah.
Stop! Yeah. Oh, stop!
What are you gonna drink with it?
Again, this is a tough one now. I'm not sure. I think at this stage you probably wouldn't put a big meaty red wine with that, but I'm going to have a big meaty red wine with that. So I am. I'm going to have a Cabernet Sauvignon or a Merlot or a Malbec, and I think I'm going to go for an Argentinian Malbec. You know, Renasser, that's one of ours, and I love it. It's my favourite red wine, and I'm going to go for the Familia Reserva in that one. Because this is my perfect dinner. I can afford, and like money is not an object.
Oh no.
Yeah, so I go for the Familia Reserva.
It's your perfect meal. Yeah. Obviously someone else's meal.
Just a real heavy Malbec, spicy, you know, loads of those dark red fruits and nearly gloopy. I just, yeah. None of your Pinot Noirs for me.
Yeah, I love pork belly. This is I like this meal. Okay, go on. After the main course, are you going to have a pre-dessert, or are you going to move on to dessert, or are you going
to... No, I'm going to go straight. I'm going to have 2 desserts. Do you know that? Feck it, I'm going to have 2 desserts because... one that I got introduced to when we got into the restaurants, again, really, you know, this is really exotic, Paddy, and banoffee pie. No, I never heard of banoffee.
I tell you, the crazy stuff we found when we started working with food.
For the people out there who don't know what banoffee pie is, this exotic dish...
digestive biscuits.
I was introduced to this when we went to the restaurant, homemade banoffee pie, and I just... Ever since, I've been a lover of it, you know, and, you know, if you get a good, proper homemade one with a lovely layer of digestive biscuits, with butter and mixed through them, then you get your condensed milk that has been boiled for 3 days, and it's just that lovely toffee texture on it, and then a lovely fresh banana, fair trade, obviously, and then really thick layer of cream on top, but chantilly cream.
Nice. Yeah,
a little bit of vanilla run through it. Oh, there we go, done, and that's one half of my dessert.
What are you going to drink with that dessert?
I'm sticking with the red wine.
I'm
on the second bottle here, definitely on the second bottle. So yeah, and the other dessert that I'm going to have with that is lemon meringue pie.
Oh yeah.
Lemon meringue pie. I heard Emer speaking about it in one of your podcasts recently, and I had forgotten, but it is something that I just associate with my childhood that just brought me so much joy.
Yeah.
My mum used to bring me into the shopping centre on a Thursday after school when we'd be doing the shopping, and we used to go into the little coffee shop in the middle of the shop.
The raised one?
Yeah.
The
coffee dock,
was it coffee dock?
I think it was the coffee dock, and she used to bring me in there, and you used to have to queue up to get your tea and coffee and whatever, and it was always tea, so we'd get the tea for 2, and then we'd be moving along, and then you'd come to the lovely dessert section, and the lemon meringue pie would always be calling me, and I'd be like, "Mammy, can I have a lemon meringue pie?" And she'd go on, son.
I have to say, I cooked it for Eva Rans from Bakelicious. She gave me the recipe. It was brilliant, and it's exactly like that. It's a throwback. We used to have the one at home years ago. It was made in the package. Remember the blue and white package?
Yes.
And I'd say now because we're so we throw our noses up at it. But lemon meringue pie is just something so homely and reassuring about it. And the one Emer gave me, I was very nervous making it, but it turned out fantastic. Lemon meringue pie.
I just like. My partner, my girlfriend, Carmen, knows that I love lemon meringue pie, and she has made it for me a couple of times, and I swear
that's love.
It's just yes, because there's so much work involved in the lemon meringue pie. It's like this is not something you just throw together.
Nope.
This is bloody like petri dishes and science. Like this is complete science.
But it's worth it.
Oh, it's just amazing.
And would you have ice cream with it, or just as it is?
No, I'd have to have cream with it.
Would you?
I'm not a bit like I love ice cream, but I can give or take it, like, you know, and I'm not pushing it, but cream, yeah, definitely cream with it, yeah.
They're too good. And would they have to be full portions, or would you have a little medley? Banoffee and lemon meringue pie.
Feck it, Paddy. I'm heading for the electric chair here.
I don't have a game tomorrow.
I'm having full portions.
So you've had your gold cheese and apple salad with rocket and pine nuts. You've had your delicious pork belly and cider with creamy mashed potato, and you've had your 2 desserts because you can. What are you going to do? Are you going to finish off with a drink? Are you going to have coffee?
Well, now you're after throwing the cat amongst the pigeons. I was about to say I'm going to have a brandy to finish off, but I'm not finished yet, Paddy. No. I'm going to have a brandy coffee first.
Oh.
I'm going to have a good coffee royale. So I am really, proper brandy coffee with the cream sitting on top, 1.5 sugars in it, and just I love a good brandy coffee, and then I'll have it just a brandy at the very end on its own. So
sit back and just relax with your brandy, wait for the call.
Yeah, just wait for the call, and you know the I wouldn't even at this stage with the 2 bottles of red wine, gin and tonic, brandy coffee, and a brandy at the end. I don't think I'm going to feel the electric shock going through the body.
I'm trying to keep this happy. You're the one talking about death, but it wouldn't be a bad way to go. Okay, Mickey, I would, not sure about the death part, but I would join you happily for the rest of your meal. As long as I can wake up with a hangover while you're off to the chair. They'd probably just give you a crab cake and let it look after itself. So if any of you want to keep up with Mickey, there's many ways to do it. If you love your GAA, his podcast is We Are Meath on Twitter and Instagram. If you're more interested in his wine podcast, I heard it through the Grapevine. It's at the Grapevine TW on Twitter, and you can subscribe to both podcasts in all the usual places. You can order all Tindal Wines online through www.tindalwine.com, and you can contact Mickey directly through his Twitter if you want to get in touch with him. And if you're lucky enough after you order them, you might even have Mickey himself knocking on your door to deliver them. So thanks to you, the listener, for staying with us to the end. If you like what you've heard, you can subscribe wherever you get your pods. We're on Spotify, iTunes, Spreaker, Google Podcasts, Podcast Addict, Castbox, and YouTube as well. So if you're looking for us, we're hard to avoid. It'd be lovely if you left a positive review on any of them as well, just to help us get the word out. We're across all the social media platforms too. Just search for the Chopping Block Pod on your favourite and you'll find us. Remember Mickey's dish, his apple and goat cheese salad with pine nuts and rocket and balsamic drizzle. It's on my Insta story now, and it'll be on my Insta highlights under Mickey's name if you want to give it a try. If you do cook it, take a photo, share it, tag us in it, and tag Mickey in it, and we'll show off your dish to the world. That's all from me. Thanks again, Mickey. It's been great crack talking to you. We live in some old times as well.
Yeah, like, you know, and we've so many stories that we could share, and there's so many stories that we couldn't share as well.
Exactly.
I know one in particular that would have involved.
Let's move on.
One in particular that would have involved peach schnapps and Bulmers, but we'll not talk about that. It's been an absolute pleasure, Paddy. Thanks a million for having me.
Thanks a million, Mickey, and to everyone out there, farewell, stay safe, and we will chat to you next time on the Chopping Block.